Hey, welcome back, everybody, to Getting a Grip on the Michigan Business Network. I am Mike Maddox, your host, and I'm with David DeJonge, who is the president of Behler-Young. And we are talking about EOS and David and Behler-Young's experience with the EOS journey and what it's done for his company. And we're in the middle of talking about some of the foundational tools. And David, in the first or the last segment, we talked about creating the vision and getting everyone aligned on the same vision and getting the right people in the right seats. One of the indicators and the third foundational tool of EOS that allows you to know if you have the right people in the right seats is metrics and KPIs. And I want to get your take on this and your experience with it, because what I often hear when I coach on metrics is it feels like micromanagement. Our people are going to resist. And what I try to share, and maybe I don't do a good enough job of it, that's why I have you on as a guest to explain it, is that good people want to know what it's going to take to be successful. They want to know what we're going to measure. And tell our listeners about your experience with metrics and getting those implemented through the EOS journey.
Sure, Mike. I heard the same thing from a number of EOS companies when I researched that. Once they get to the data metric stage, there's a little bit of hesitation. We were just really blessed at Behler-Young about 8-9 years ago. I worked with one of our IT developers because I wanted to put data at people's fingertips. We have all our 20 branches at our DCs on almost on a real-time basis. And I developed with one of our developers something called live stats, and they could see what is expected of them, and they could measure things. Some of them were updated every 5 minutes. So there was a daily scorecard or even an hourly scorecard. So what they do, so when we got to the metrics, implementing the scorecard for EOS, it was really a non-issue because they were already having that we had that in place across all the branches. And it was, when it went live, in fact, if people, there's a TV behind me, when it went live, great people want to be measured.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Yeah.
And when the things aren't going as well, it's like, now it forces the question is, what can we do to get better? So
that's a really important point.
It almost takes it off from a personal basis, and like, oh, this isn't working. It's like, well, a lot of times it's a process issue.
Absolutely. And I couldn't agree more on the first point, that great people want to be measured. They want to know what it is, what it looks like to be successful. What are the tangible metrics we're going to use? And I say we because when we implement metrics and when I coach on implementing metrics, it's a conversation. It's not handed down from on high. It's a dialogue. What does it mean to be successful in this role? And often the person in the role has more insight than the manager or the leader. So it is a bi-directional conversation. But when the metrics aren't being met, I've found it's often not the individual, it's something in the company process that's preventing them from meeting the metric, which is critically important for company success. Yeah. So that creates issues. And that's a fourth foundational area of EOS, which is identifying issues, which are basically problems that we have to solve. Yeah. And so talk about your experience with that.
Yes, in fact, one of the things that I implemented a number of years ago here, and has been very, very successful. We have a 21 functional department leaders, managers, and we get together like the second Monday of the month for a hour and a half update. But one part of the update is, I mean, you have a financial update, but then we have a metric update. And if someone's metric is in the red, they have to discuss to the group of 21 why they're in the red. And the other 20 people have to say, is there anything I can do to help you get back on track?
Yeah, that's beautiful.
And that's been, and usually, sometimes things happen and you're in the red for maybe a legitimate reason, but it's really led to great dialogue about, okay, this is really important. And how can I help you get back to where you should be? And it's really worked out great.
Yeah, and it brings to mind another difference that EOS brought in my personal experience, which is prior to EOS, we would talk about our problems and our issues. And I remember running management meetings and leadership meetings where we would discuss an issue for an hour and a half and honestly never really get to the root problem. right? Never get to what's the root of this issue. We talk about a lot of symptoms, we talk about potential solutions, we talk about a lot of tangents, but never dove into exactly what is the root of this. And your question by the other 20 of what can I do to help you solve that gets to the root, because sometimes solving it involves, in fact, almost always solving it involves multiple people in multiple different areas.
Correct.
And I'm curious on your reaction to this. I've always said too that I would rather in those weekly meetings when we're IDSing, IDS of course is an EOS term, identify, discuss, and solve. Identify the issue, discuss it, make sure you understand what the root of it is, and then try to solve it. We're IDSing, I'd rather solve one issue in that meeting forever than 10 issues for never. And I used to, in my old, prior to US, we'd solve 10 issues for never, right? We just kind of lawn mow the weed.
Right. Mike, I feel the same way. And to solve them forever is just refreshing, because some of these problems could be going on for decades.
Yeah.
And to get it finally solved, it actually is a big motivator for the company too. It's like, okay, what's the next one?
Exactly. That's been my experience too. It creates that momentum. Hey, we're out of time in this segment. We are coming back with more with David DeJonge. Don't go anywhere. We're so glad you're listening. Stay with us, and we'll be back right after this commercial break.